guys, welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called Off the Rails. Off the Rails is by Rotten Games for 2 to 4 players. It takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play, and I'm guessing about ages 10 to maybe 12 and up. In Off the Rails, you're going to be playing with little mine carts, and you're going to be taking these mine carts in a track throughout a cavern to gain jewels. They're crystals, very valuable diamonds, right? And as you're collecting them by placing carts, placing track, moving the carts around the track by also increasing the speed or decreasing the speed, you also be collecting diamonds as you pass them, right? So people are going to be picking them up. I just picture you're like flying around this minecart grabbing jewels and just throwing them in your cart as you're going along. Now you might actually bump into another player and lose some stuff, or go off the rails, which could be dangerous, as well as falling into a chasm, which is extremely dangerous. Now you're trying to get as many jewels and diamonds as you possibly can at the end of the game, and the end of the game is going to spawn this chasm in which everything's just going to explode, and you need to get out of there as soon as possible afterwards. But that is the idea of the game Off the Rails by Andrew Platt. Let me go ahead and show you what it looks like. So here's the setup for Off the Rails. Now I've gone ahead and just set up the corresponding decks for the deposit cards to make it easier, but to save time I'll just explain just a little bit. First of all, you're going to get 4 starting cards, which are all going to be 4 different colors, as well as 4 deposit cards listed on the chasm area, in which they're, at the end of the game, things are going to start exploding and spawning places, as well as the deposit cards over here, where at the end of your turn you're going to draw them to place more minerals until the chasm happens. You can learn about it in the rules as how to set that up. I'm going to go on to the game now. So you got 4 players, and every single one of you is going to have 2 mine carts with a black and a white die in them to indicate the different types of cart as well as how fast they're going. And throughout the game, you're going to be increasing or decreasing their speed based on this die here with a max of 6 and the minutest of 1, or minimal of 1. I've also gone ahead and placed a bunch of these mine track cards. It doesn't really matter what side the tiles are on, because you have to play a certain type throughout the game. But in the game, to start off, the first thing you do is you're going to flip over all these basic deposits here. And as you see on the board here, you're going to indicate 4 and on the red. And then you're going to take randomly from the bag 2 gems and place it on the 4 section, which is right here. And then you're going to go for the blue as well and pick 2 of them at random from the bag and place it on the 3. And then you got the 5, right, with the green. Here's 2 more. And then 2 with yellow, just like that. These cards are done for the setup, and they're going to go away now. Alright, so now we've got jewels all set up everywhere. All the jewels are good, and they're worth something except for the rocks, which are black, a little hard to see. But in here, in the stockpile, he'll tell you what different kinds of points these guys are all worth. The bright ones here, these little colorless ones, are diamonds. They're worth 4. Yellow is 3, red is 1, and green is 2. But if you have the most red at the end of the game, you're going to get 5 points, so collecting those is good. On your turn to start off, we'll just go ahead and say that blue is the first to start off. There's 3 different things you do. First, take actions, then move your mine carts, and then generate deposits. If the chasm has happened, you don't generate deposits, and you instead expand the chasm by drawing random tiles from this box here that will be face down. So let's go ahead and start the game off. So the first thing he wants to do maybe is place a mine cart. He can choose either one and place them on any of these locations here, and then he'll get to select one of 2 different types of tiles to start off with. You can choose to take a turn or take a straight away. These have to be played. You can't play any of the other ones first. Play it just like that. That would be 1, and he'd look for another one. Here's another one, 2, and if he wanted, maybe he wanted to go this way, he would place it 3. Now, that is 4 actions, 1 to place, and 2, 3, and 4 to put down these 3 tiles here. He could also instead choose to take an action by actually making this go up 1 increment, so it would cost 3 actions to go from 3 to 6 over here. But he doesn't want to do that. He's going to stick with 3, because going off of the rails is going to destroy you or do something bad, so we don't want that to happen. So after he's gone ahead and taken his 4 actions, he's going to go ahead and move his minecart, the allowed total up here, and it has to be exactly that. So he go 1, 2, 3. And then the next player would go. So we'll go ahead and take yellow over here, and they're going to do the same thing. It just makes sense to do that. 1, 2, and let's see if we can find another. Here it is, 3. And you're going to put these minerals right on top there. That's 3, that's 4, and then finally moving here. And that's kind of how it works. The last thing you need to know about is on blue's turn and on yellow's turn, after moving the mine carts, you got to do the generate deposits. Well, how does that work? Simply take a card from here, reveal it. It says 6 and it says 3. So you randomly take 3, 6, red, just like that, and that goes. And the same would happen for yellow too. Flip over a new one, 6 blue. Ooh, okay. randomly take 3 here. 2, 3. That's great. Except for the fact that he's actually going the other way now, so that's not going to help him so much. So yellow's gone ahead and moved now. When you move past these guys, this is how you gain points. Now the first thing is if you pass minerals, you're going to gain 1 of them. And if you land on them, you can gain 2. And you can hold a maximum of 5 different minerals in your cart. And these little areas here indicate the types of, the way you can put your minerals for the carts. There's the black carts and the white carts here, and there's 5 symbols representing the minerals. However, whenever you pass or land on any of the black rocks, you have to take them. So if she were to have passed, if yellow were to have passed this, he or she would have to take this black one here. But because he landed on it, he gets both the he or she gets both the yellow and the black. And he's placed them right here. That's 2 of the 5. And he's generated, and he is now done. And red is going to go 1 action, 2, let's see, 3, and 4. Once again, another. Just like that. Generate a deposit. 6, 3, green. 1, 2, 3. Look at all that. And he's going to be done. And then green will go ahead and do the same thing. And that's the idea of how it works, right? Just like that. There's 4 actions for him as well. Now let's go over a couple other things in the game. There's 3. Okay, so now a couple other things first of all. Another action you could take would be to upgrade one of these tracks here. For instance, let's say green wanted to play another one of these guys here on his next turn, but he didn't want to go forward, so he's actually going to get rid of this and he can upgrade. Now when you can only upgrade the straight or the turns with one of these T tracks. And that would allow him to go like this, and he could turn left or turn right there if he wanted. Or, sorry, like that. And then he can go ahead and turn left or keep going straight if he wanted. And also, he could upgrade this track here, this little T1, into a cross track, which then lets him go in any direction he would so choose. He can go this way or that way. It's kind of a nice little thing you can do there for upgrading the different tracks. So those are upgrades you can do. Now, obviously, as you go across and grabbing these different things, you're going to want to eventually fill up and go back. And that would be a really important thing for red to do. And here's how it would happen, hopefully. Right, this is the idea. Grab this one here. And one more straight away. So eventually, red would hope to make something like this maybe. And he would up his, it would be up to speed 5, that'd be awesome. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he'd leave. Now red, if he or she had all of these gems here in his little minecart, they get to score them, and you put them in your little deposit thing, hidden from everybody else to see, just like that. So that's one way to acquire the minerals in the game. You could also take other people's tracks, if you can, attach them, and escape to one of their depots and score. So that's another way you can do it as well. And eventually, as you go through these decks, the last set of cards in this deck is going to be a Chasm Card. It looks just like that. The Chasm Card is interesting because it actually will blow up the mind, revealing 4 new spots, just like these. You got 1 red, 5 blue, and 4 green, and 3 yellow. So let's go ahead and put them all down. Oh, this would be nasty. This one would go right here. And 1 red. Oh, wow. No luck for players here. I mean, it wouldn't look like this in the end, but you get the idea. So these are all chasm spots, and these would go away. And for the rest of the game, instead of adding new currency to the board, you're actually going to be randomly drawing these tiles here and placing them adjacent to these spaces here that have been chasmed. Also, when you get chasmed or you run into a chasm, you lose your carts and you don't score any of the points at the end of the game that the carts are worth. Carts are worth 3 points at the end of the game, so you don't get to score those, and you don't get to put them back on the tracks either. They're gone for good. So escaping the chasm is a good idea with as many possible gems as you possibly can. And that is the idea of the game. You escape, and after everybody's escaped, you're going to tally up all of these points here and gather as many as you can. There are mission cards that will give you certain things, certain different victory points, as well as having the most red at the end of the game will give you a bonus of 5 points. And that is how you play the game off the rails. So that's the basic idea of how you play off the rails. And like I said, going into a chasm, you're going to lose your card as well as all the minerals inside. And there's certain other ways you can bump into people and lose certain portions of your minerals, as well as bumping into track and you'll have to go backwards and whatnot. A couple other minute rules, but the idea of the game is the same. Going around, traveling on your minecart, collecting things, upgrading the tracks, moving out on your own area or on your opponent's to score points. Whoever has the most gems or crystals or diamonds at the end of the game is the winner, and that is how you play. Let me tell you what I think about it. Now, the first thing This game's gorgeous. I love the art. I love the colors. It's very vibrant, and when I look at the game, I just go, ooh, this looks really, really fun. And I also like the little 3D printed models that are going on here with the mine cards. Now, I'm not sure, I know this is a prototype copy, obviously, what I have. I'm very excited to see what they come up with for the end result, because I'm already loving this game. Of course, there are paper cards and stuff like that, and there are mission cards in the game that I didn't discuss too much, but these are like kind of an advanced mode. Give this card to a player with the most rocks in their supply at the end of the game, which is worth 4 points, so rocks can be useful. Diamonds aren't forever. Stockpile a diamond in one turn from a single minecart and give you 4 bonus points, but you can only have the diamond when you stockpile it. And there's a bunch of other fun little cards in here. Those are great as well. The game plays really well at 2 players, and it plays really well at 4 as well. I think the more chaos that you want in the game, the more players you also want to have in the game as well. The off-the-rails into deposit cards, I think that's pretty confusing. It took us a while to understand how the decks work, because you needed to have you need to separate all 4 different colors from 1 to 8 into 8 different decks. So just for you that are curious, one of the decks in each deck has 4 random cards of the 4 different colors. Okay, so 1 through 8, 8 different decks, all 4 different colors. One goes in the Chasm deck, one gets removed from the game. One is used for the startup of the game, where you put all the minerals, and the rest are all set up together in decks, except for the last deck that has the Chasm card in it, so a deck of 5 cards at the very end. Shuffle all the other decks together, or put all the other decks on top of each other, and then the bottom deck is where you're going to have that random Chasm card that can go anywhere. The Chasm's really fun. I think that you can get really screwed over with that Chasm if you're not. It's not even if you're not careful. If you're just anywhere near where the chasms could be, the very beginning there, you can just lose a bunch of carts like you saw through the little demo there. If you happen to be on those spaces, you lose the cart, you lose all the diamonds and all the gold, and you can get pretty screwed over. So it has that little bit of chance, a little bit of luck aspect. Most of it is strategy. In fact, a lot of it is, as well as placement, trying to determine whether you want to just be on your own, collecting all the different gems and stuff like that, as opposed to dealing with your opponents and trying to knock them off the rails or bump into them and all that kind of stuff to avoid them from taking the first place trophy. Could be very beneficial as well. Everything works really well. I really enjoy the upgrading of the different minecart pieces and allowing you to go left or right and turn and all that kind of stuff, as well as keeping it so it doesn't really need to be, it's not random allocation. You get to select either left or right, and you get to kind of build it as though you're the one going in there with the cart, building the mine track at the same time, and then you'll be able to use it later on throughout the game. It ended a little shorter than I would have liked. I wanted to even play even more. That's how much I really enjoyed this game, but it ended just at that point where I was like, oh, I want to keep going. But nevertheless, it's a very, very fun game. And I think people are going to grasp whether they like this game instantaneously just based on how they look at it. The theming is very straightforward and works very well. It is a take that style kind of game. It has that thing going on with it, especially at the end of the game where you're placing chasm tokens on the different spots on the board to screw people over, as well as building aspects. It's almost got that little Minecraft. Have you ever played Minecraft where you're going in, you're building carts into the mines and like that? I mean, I used to do that all the time where I'm building the carts and I'm trying to collect the diamonds and I take the cart back up, and vice versa. That's basically this game. Wonderful game. Rotten Games did a great job with Off the Rails, and I really like it.